Hey La, and welcome to Coffee with Avila. I hope this is not just wicked bright. It's looking pretty bright to me right now, but I'm Aviana Lemaire, and I want to talk about something possibly very quickly. I'm not going to lie, I don't know how to bring it up. It's something about choices we make in life, and this is another thing that crosses over with just who I am. That's how I'm going to be doing it now. I'm just not going to hide a lot of my thoughts on things. I'm autistic, I'm a mystic. And the subject is kind of peace and how we choose to get there. But I haven't known how to bring this up because my words aren't coming to me. I make a lot of choices in life and I make them very mindfully. And I have this saying that I actually created when it comes down to decor and the arrangement of things like bookcases, fans. I used to have some things in some really insane places, and I still do sometimes. And when I would be trying to rearrange them so that they looked or felt less insane, what I would always end up doing is coming to a place where I realized that no matter what I did, I couldn't put them in a better place. I knew they looked weird. I knew it seemed like this thing is blocking my way. Someone would look in the room and have, not everyone, but certain people would look in the room and have something to say. And I couldn't make it look more what they want, more normal, more average, more regular, because it was serving a purpose. And so I came up with this expression that I would repeat to myself when I was going around and around trying to rearrange things, but I couldn't, because no matter what I did, there wasn't a better place or an equivalent place to put them. There was no better way to do them. And I would say to myself, the crazier it looks, the bigger the reason. Because everything was for a reason, and I had a lot of really bad stuff going on in life. So something like the place where I kept a fan positioned was very often kind of a big deal. I'm going to even just readjust the camera a little bit because there's just too much weird clutter in here right now. But the sun's coming through and everything looks weird, so let me just get to it. I'm finding myself having a really strange experience in my life. And I've seen other people have it, but now I'm having it, and I'm very acutely aware of why it's happening. I will be talking about something that I'm doing in my life, like a life choice, a place of residence, a way that I approach finances. It happened a little while back when I was talking about credit cards and credit card debt. I mentioned that I was blessed not to have credit card debt, that I'm very proud, and that it's one of the few things in life that I felt truly proud of when I felt proud of nothing. And the person, and this is not somebody who's trying to come after me at all, is a person in total love, but I had this experience where the first thing they did was tell me, well, it's not that simple. People are getting into debt for, the obvious reasons, like you end up with a health problem or what have you. It's kind of, for me, that's baseline knowledge. I knew that when I was a very small child. It's not difficult to know that credit cards are not just there for, some old-fashioned sitcom situation where you must have the world's most expensive sweater or shoes, and you've just got to have them right now, even though you can't afford them. And maybe if you were using cash, you wouldn't have them at all. A lot of times they're there because something catastrophic just happened and you're just trying to protect yourself and the ones you love. But I think a lot of us know that. So I'm trying to make my station the unusual one. And I often find in life that there's not a lot of content out there for people who already know some of the basics in life. Like that, like credit card debt can happen for a million reasons. We're not judgmental because we don't know the situation. I want to have a place for what I've always been looking for, where maybe you already know that. If you don't know that, you can always put it in the comments. I will always have an approach to explaining something, whether it's in another video or in the comment section. But I just thought about this because I was one of the few things in my life. I said this at a certain point. I met someone and I said I was very, very proud to be able to tell them, with all the other things in my life I wasn't proud of, I was proud that I could say to them, I don't come with credit card debt. Because some of us will know debt is a very real and very big concern, and it can affect a relationship, and it can affect someone who is smart and or wise going into one. So I was very glad to be able to say of myself, I don't bring that to the party. And as a small aside, it's not because my life has been easy. It's because no matter what was happening, I made certain choices, right? The crazier it looks, the bigger the reason. Then I was having a conversation a little while ago with someone else, and it had to do with the financial climate. And it didn't go completely political, but for a second it edged in there, and it was just talking about what people were going through in life. And this person ends up saying to me, well, you can't really know what's going on out there unless you get out with it. And again, they're not being judgmental. They come in love, but this was their first thought, saying to me, you can't really know what's going on out there unless you get out there and you're out there with the people and you're talking with them. And, you know, basically it's that thing. Go, get out, walk the streets, have the experience, be around people, immerse yourself in it. Now, the common line in both of these remarks is that the person saying them automatically defaulted to, if you are saying this, it is because you don't know better. And I've been thinking about that a lot in life because I no longer have a need. Okay, here we are again. There's a well-known biblical line, don't cast your pearls before swine. I know it sounds like an insult, but I was always told, and I'm sure there are multiple meanings, I'm readdressing all this, but I was always told basically it means if you have something of very high value, don't put it into a location where it's not going to do any good, where they're not going to appreciate it. And so I've kind of gotten to a place in my life where, despite having a lot of abuses that trained me that it is my job to make excuses for who I am and what I think, I've healed enough and come to a place where I no longer do. And just to sum it up, I want to address this because I know some of us are like this. The reason why I don't do these things is not because I've never heard of them. It's not because I've never heard of credit card debt, or I didn't think of getting into debt for medical reasons or whatever other convenience or necessity. It's because I made a choice knowing where it could lead me, and what I did not want in my life, I chose not to want it. I'm not out there with people because I've had the experience. I'm highly empathically sensitive. I get overwhelmed by things that I do not like and cannot tolerate. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this video right now, but I'm going to just keep going for it and see what happens. There's never been a time in my life when I didn't get into credit card debt because I didn't consider it an option to go off and do something like that. How can I sum up? I've seen people go through things, and I don't want that for myself. And I chose, by hook or by crook, not to go through it. I have suffered a lot for this reason, and I do not regret my choice, because I would have suffered more if I hadn't. I've had the experiences I've had as an autist, getting out there, talking with people. I'm an empath, and I grew up in a world where people are constantly, honestly, they're coming from a non-empathically gifted perspective, and they're saying you need to get out there, you need to listen, you need to have other people's experiences, you need to immerse yourself in it. It's the only way to understand, it's the only way to get it. But that's for someone who doesn't have that gift. I was given that gift, so doing that just blasts my senses out. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to wrap this up pretty soon, but I'm not sure. So I just wanted to say, because I know some of us will understand, it really is okay, even if people do not understand why you're doing something, to be making the odd choice that looks crazy, knowing that the reason for it is extremely big. I'm still glad and blessed that I don't have credit card debt. I don't know if one day when I feel safe and secure, I will have an amount, but I'm a kind of person who, I know what I've been through, and it's not going to make me feel secure to have debt that I know I can't pay off. So I've dealt with things. I honestly have medical issues, and I haven't had access to getting them fixed, and I'm living with them for multiple reasons. It's actually kind of been my entire life. My entire life up until this point has been eaten because of a variety of things, including being gaslit by someone who would not give me the details of what they were saying, but was saying some things to deter me, and not having the money that I need to make the choice that I need. I could have been medicated very early on in my life and not suffered any of what I went through that prevented me from being able to do other things. I've been undocumentedly, I think I've made that word up, but I'm undocumentedly physically disabled for all of my life. And I haven't been getting disability pay, or I don't know a better word to say than something like credit. Like when I'm in a position and people look and they're like, okay, I understand why that's happening with you. I don't get that experience because it's not documented, because I also don't have access to getting those things done. I don't have access to the documentation and the rigorous tests and all these things. I don't have that with autism. I don't have it with autism. Some people are getting disability for that, and I'm not getting that. I've never been getting it for anything. So I've just been in a very bad position all of my life, which is part of the reason why I make a lot of weird decisions. But I realized at a certain point in my life, energetically, I absorb everything. And this is part of the autistic brain. And people call it autism. They call it a disease. They call it a communication disorder. My viewpoint is God needed me to be highly empathic. My belief is you are what you are. Your spirit is built. Your program, your spirit is there. Your soul is built. Who you are, your mission exists. And your body needs to suit that, if at all possible. The autistic brain has given me a lot of capabilities I would not have had otherwise, and one of them is extreme sensory sensitivity, and in my case, extreme empathic sensitivity. So that thing where you walk into a room and get completely overwhelmed by someone else's energy, I see that spiritually. And so that happened today, and I saw it because I'm a Christian mystic, and I know the situation. It's extremely boring and sickening and old. I saw it as an attack, and so I'm choosing to do something with that energy. So if I'm sounding out of breath and nervous, or if I'm shaking because I can't tell, it's because of that. I'm choosing to do something to transmute the energy into worth instead of being what it was when it came at me. So I'm analyzing the energy. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm having my internal practices, conversations with Christ, and I decided I've got way too much energy to sit down and calm down and have my breakfast. I'm going to finally record a video. And this has been on my mind for a long time, and I don't know how to close the video with somewhat of a solve. I'm not sure that there is a solve, hiccups, for having a conversation with someone who doesn't get why you made a choice. If you don't have the energy to explain why you made that choice in just the right way, or if you're talking to someone, as I have done in some cases, where they are not going to get it no matter what. I've had conversations with people who are spiritually seeking, but they are not what I would call spiritually sound. And I won't get into details like that, but they're open to the concept of it, but they don't have the knowledge and the wisdom and the experience. Like some of us have been through the ringer, gone through the fire and come out as gold, pure gold, because everything in our entire lives has been flamed away to the point where there's nothing left but the one thing that could survive it all, which would be the gold. It's not comfortable, it's not life, it's not fun, it's not life, but it's an aspect of life, and some of us have done that. This person hasn't done that. They still have all of the impurities, but they're in a place of like having it. So I've spoken to some people like that, and I know in that case it's not really good to explain too much, because you're ultimately going to do them harm. From a spiritual perspective, giving somebody a concept of something they cannot begin to grasp sometimes harms them. Okay? I know this is going to sound very strange, but I remember someone being given just some light nutritional advice. It wasn't me, but it was something that I was told about. Someone was given some very light nutritional advice. They were dealing with something, and the person said you need healthy oils in your diet, omega fats, and omega-3 and 6 and 9 fatty acids. And they were telling them you can, for instance, get this through fish. You eat fish and it contains these oils. And later on, the person came back with the purest of hearts and said they were eating a brisket. And this isn't the same thing nutritionally. Some people will get it. They were eating a brisket and it had a lot of the fat on it, and they didn't want that white fat that was built up on it. But they were like, I thought about what you said, and so I decided I would eat some of the fat. So what ended up happening here is that person might have gone along and kind of peeled off the part of the food that some of us might peel off because it's too fatty or greasy or oily, and it's not necessarily what we're going for. They ended up eating it when they didn't have to, because they just didn't fully understand the concept. And not everyone will do that, but once in a while someone does that. And it's one thing if you're doing it with a little bit of fat on some brisket now and then, you know, instead of the fat in the fish or some nuts or things like that. And it's one thing if you're giving somebody a spiritual concept, because some of us have been through it, right? We've been through the fire. Our spiritual concepts are on the level of our journey and what we've been through and what we have learned. So they can be in a place where if you tell somebody about it and they don't get how to utilize it, they'll do the spiritual version of that fat. So instead of just perhaps upsetting their stomach or getting a little bit of something that's not that healthy, they might end up making some decisions that really aren't good for them because they truly think that these decisions are good for them and they do not know what's going on. And you kind of have to, as the person in that position who knows what's going on, you have to be aware that when you're trying to help, you can't put too much weight on someone if they're not equipped to handle it. You know, you might be in the gym with somebody. A better analogy might be you might be in the gym with somebody and they want to get very, very strong, but they're not strong right now and they haven't worked out in a very long time. And maybe you are very bulked up and you can deadlift, I don't know, maybe you can just lift 500 pounds, but this person is, unbeknownst to you, unable to do like 10 curls with a 5-pound weight without being in serious pain. It would be unwise of you to explain to that person that the best way to get to where you are is to start lifting, you know, heavier and heavier weights. Like, oh, well, I started, when I started doing this, maybe you started in a different point in your journey. It's like I started with 100 pounds. So they might come in thinking, whoa, they started with 100 pounds. That's what I need to do. But their body isn't prepared for it and they don't know how to do it. So they try to lift 100 pounds and end up pulling things and injuring things or herniating things or God knows what. It's a really bad situation for them. It was great for you, but that's because you lived a different life and you were prepared in a different way. They're not there yet. So I'm coming to a place where I'm realizing there are 15 million reasons not to explain to somebody why I'm making the decisions I'm making. And sometimes it's just because I don't have the energy that day. And sometimes it's because spiritually I don't want them bending over and picking a 100-pound weight without knowing how to lift it. But I'm just noticing that this is something I've been going through and I don't really hear people talking about it. It's kind of a usual occurrence when you make unusual choices in your life. People often think, well, you're doing that because you don't know a better option. And for some of us on our journey, whether we're thinking of it as a spiritual journey or let's say it's because you are autistic and you don't want the energy influx, you don't want it, for instance, you don't want to be out around everybody all the time intaking their stuff. Maybe you just know you feel bad when you do it and so you don't want to do it. From my perspective, I know what you spend all of your time absorbing is what you have inside to put back out. That's what you're going to be nesting with, and what's the word? That's what you're going to be marinating yourself in. It's what's going to season you and your life experience. And that's what's going to be locked inside of you. When you're ready to give something back out, it's going to be that because you have so much of it. And it takes a lot of work to take a lot of stress and weird energy in and not put it back out. So I make a lot of choices, and I guess the best way to put it is people have an interesting way of assuming that everything I've done that's not the regular way is because I don't know better. And the truth is, it's literally always been because I do. Especially when I'm making a huge life choice, and that is for some of us. It is because I know better. Like, I know people who, they approach sexuality differently. And for them, they think of it as being a positive experience if they just go with whatever their instinct is. I might be going with my instinct, but it looks different because we might be in the same situation and they look at somebody and they have an instinct to go toward them. And I look at somebody and my instinct is not to. So I'm considered oddball and odd duck. You know, people will not automatically think I'm a sex positive or whatever. I don't know about the terminology. I'm not sure that I even like what it suggests, but I heard that term yesterday, and it stuck with me, the concept of being sex positive. But my sex positivity is completely different. Maybe I'll talk about that later. I'm having an instinct, I'm following my instinct, I'm doing what I do for my reasons. So when I'm not with every person I can, on paper, that someone could consider to be with, it's because I do know the other option, and that is not what I want. I don't want any of that. So I'm making the choice that suits me. It's not because it hasn't occurred to me. People will be like, oh, you can do whatever you want to do, you know? You take care of this, take care of that, protections, blah, blah, blah. This is a new day. You don't have to not be with them. But the thing is, I've reached a point where I have my natural instincts in who I am. I lived my life, I learned. When I was a child, I listened, I paid attention. I made decisions about what I did want in my life and what I did not want in my life and how I could get there. I went through all of the pressure and stress of being female, and on the one hand, you're never supposed to do it because that means something horrible, and on the other hand, you're always supposed to do it because if you don't, you're not free and easy about your body and sexuality. I went through the cultural escapades of trying to figure out when I was supposed to pretend to be perfectly virginal in every conceivable way, and when I was supposed to pretend, well, to be absolutely the opposite in every conceivable way. And I've come out of it deciding I'm just going to be who I am. So if I decide I don't want to go home with somebody, even if you like their suit or their perfume or whatever it is, that's because that's my decision. It's because I've reached a point where no one else in society and nothing else out there in the atmosphere is making those decisions for me, and I'm not concerned about hiding it. I'm just being who I am. It's part of the reason why I'm generally private about things, because I just like having my decisions and my peace. But there will always be someone who thinks, a girl, you don't know you can go live your life, go do that, go have that fun. But I'm not choosing not to go with this person because I don't know I have the option, and I don't know that I'm free and I can do what I want. I'm choosing not to go with them because I know I have the option and I'm free and I can do what I want, which includes not doing. And that's just kind of, it sums it up. It's been a long life experience where everybody thinks if you're not doing things in the regular way, it's just because it hasn't occurred to you yet. So I just wanted to put this out here to address anyone else who's dealing with that. You are not the only one. Sometimes it feels like I am the only one who's made the choices I've made, who's chosen to deal with a whole lot of, frankly, I haven't chosen the hell that's been in my life, but I have made some choices that people don't understand that look like I'm staying in it because I literally couldn't find a better option. I couldn't find a better way. There wasn't a better way to arrange things. There wasn't one that was a lateral move. I've done the best in every situation, so when I'm not out there around people, and I will say this again, with true love, this person who is telling me you need to get out there, they're also autistic, and they were saying that to me in pure love, but they are overwhelmed by it. And what they put into themselves and what they spend their time around, they end up getting full up with, overwhelmed with, and then that's greatly what they have to put out, and it's being locked in a loop. I don't want to be locked in that loop, and I see the loop clearly, and that's not what I choose for my life. And so long story short, if someone is telling me something and they're telling me I do it this way, that's another aspect that a lot of people don't talk about. If someone else is telling you that they do something in a way, and okay, if someone's telling me they do something in a different way, and it's different than my way, and here's the reason why they do it, and it's so great, blah, 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 I have a tendency to pay attention to what the outcome of that has been in their life. And so if that outcome is not something that I want, I'm surely not going to be tempted to do it myself. I feel a sudden sensation of peace coming over me, and I think maybe I've accomplished something today. I've used the energy, and there's quiet, and I suddenly feel hungry. And I have that, like, my way of processing energy when I'm excelsior stressed. I just use that word all the time. When I'm excelsior stressed, I can't eat, and I can't calm, and I suddenly can hear the air around me. So maybe I've just about finished my point. There are a million things on this subject that I could talk about, but maybe that's it. If you have any thoughts on it, maybe that's it for today. If you have any thoughts on this, if you've got any similar experiences, if there's anything else you'd like to hear me talk about from the mystically autistic point of view, leave it in the comments. I am very interested to hear it. I also have other social media links. I might eventually get them under each video, but on my home page, it's me on Twitter, and it recently occurred to me that it's worth saying I'm also on Ko-fi.com. I'll always have those links on my homepage here on YouTube, and I'll figure out what else I do with them. Growing and evolving. So if you got anything out of the content, please like, comment if you have thoughts, share the video if you think it'll help somebody, especially. Subscribe, ring the notification bell so you know when I'm uploading again, because it will be based on what I can do in life. And that's about it. Bye now.